Friday, March 28th, and we are here on PuckTime on WagerTalk TV. Andrew and Carmine. Guys, I know yesterday you found us in a different spot on the YouTube channel, but I'm happy you guys found us. Appreciate all the love in the comments. Carm, a lot of them were saying, hey, we don't want PuckTime going away. We make money with these guys. So we appreciated all the comments, guys. We got a handful of games to break down here on a Friday, and we hope you guys all had a great Thursday night. Carm, good morning to you.
Morning, Andrew. A late night watching that Leafs San Jose game. It was the last game on a three-game card for me. I was hoping for a 3-0 sweep, but 2-1 on the NHL night. A couple of really good games on tonight's card as well, too. And the weekend, Saturday, I really love the Saturday card. I don't want to give it one of the Prez. I love it because those ones backfire. But I do love the Saturday card, so I will likely have a big play loaded on that one. And of course, we have the 6 and 60 today, so we're going to talk Vancouver, Columbus, Andrew. We're going to talk Utah and Florida. If you have some props along the way, or you'll drop them for us. Then we're going to finish it off with the Devils and Jets in a um, interesting one tonight in Winnipeg. Some couple show free plays and the 6 and 16. Hopefully, some actionable info or some winners along the way.
Let's do it.
Um,
And yesterday
yeah,
for me,
let's
Carm,
get this.
it was weird because I bet a lot of the team totals, and it was one of the first full game overs I've taken in a while. And I had the over in the Sens and Red Wings game as my only client play. And I'm thinking to myself, man, Ottawa got to 4. Why didn't I just play a team total? And this is why I've fallen in love with those team totals, because I it takes 2 to tango. You realize when you play a full game over, you need both teams to help out. It can't be one team that does it all. And then the third period, it was like the Undertaker meme, like Detroit just woke up. Detroit just came out of nowhere. They didn't make the full comeback, but they woke up just enough to push that game over with the final score 4-3. But for those of you that wonder why I like the team totals, obviously you have to pick which team goes over. But that game was so frustrating for me because I'm watching and I'm like, man, if Ottawa wins this one like 4-1 or 5-1, I would have been so frustrated. But that was my one play yesterday. Those can be so tough, Carm, because if you got one team not showing up, and we talked about it on Puck Time yesterday with Brian, because Detroit in March were the number 2 ranked XG team in the league, but they couldn't score any goals. It's like, yeah, sure, the XG looks good, but they just weren't executing.
Yeah, it's we talked about that game yesterday, and I thought it was obviously, as far as I was concerned, it's not a handicapping tool, but as a hockey fan, as a Detroit fan, that was a must win for them. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just Ottawa playing better because Ottawa has not been playing well over their last few games, but they definitely showed up. Detroit were unable to match their energy, and at the end of the day, even those late comebacks don't end up working a lot of the time. You've got to get ahead in this game. It is so much easier to play with a lead than playing from behind. You can continue to roll out your lines like you normally would. But we're seeing, if you remember, earlier this season, early on in the season, and even last year, a lot of teams would get out to leads and then blow those leads. That's not happening right now.
Yeah.
Teams are getting out and they're holding on. You look at the prime example, the game at the last game of the night. San Jose gets in front of the Leafs, and Leafs were playing catch up the whole game. Somehow scored a couple goals late to force that into OT, but end up losing the game and dropping a valuable point when they really don't or really can't be dropping points, Andrew, because they're that Atlantic Division is tooth and nail. It's going to go right down to the end. We talked about in the last couple of years Tampa taking that last month of the season off
Yes.
normally because they know they're in the playoffs and they know they can win with the team that they have, but they would love to win the Atlantic Division as well too, and they're putting up goals like you would
Mhm.
not believe. They spanked Pittsburgh, and man, what they did to Utah yesterday was just inhumane, to
Yeah.
say the least. But Andrew, this is a weird one. Columbus opened up or Vancouver opened up minus 115 in this one. And we've seen at least overnight some Columbus money coming in, minus 120 on Columbus. Yeah, my first thoughts are this has been a really good road trip for Vancouver. They pick up a couple wins that they needed. They're smack dab in the playoff race, and Thatcher Demko has looked really good since returning to the lineup. So how does excuse me?
Let's see.
How does Columbus take the money? But I get it. Columbus confidence building win, something they needed. They're at home. They entertain their fans at home. They play well at home. Is this one of those ones where Vancouver, and you shouldn't look at this way, Andrew, but is this one of those ones where Vancouver are satisfied with how the road trip has gone, picked up points, and this might be one of those spots where I'm not saying it's what's the word I'm looking for? A down spot, soft spot, fat and sassy, or just a bad spot for them before they head home.
Well, I think that's exactly it, Carm. That's exactly it. I love that. That's been, I've been using the WagerTalk odds page, been using the odds logic page a lot more. And the best thing to do is, in my opinion, I recommend people, and I know you talk about the opening numbers a lot, Carm, is look at what the opening number is, look at what the movement is in the morning, and then check it again at about 4 or 5 o'clock. Those are, in my opinion, the three key times to be looking. And we always say you got to watch out for these flips, the overnight flips. And this is you pretty much said what I was going to say, Carm, about that overnight flip. Because people that say that they know more than the books do, those are the people that end up kind of being on the wrong side of things. You ever hear someone say the books are way off with this line?
Yeah.
It's good luck with that. A lot of times the books are, if you can constantly say they're way off, then, God bless you. But I think when I look at this one, you have to respect the overnight flip for a reason. And I think a lot of it has to do with the things that you were just saying, because, obviously with this team, being on the road against the St. Louis Blues, being on the road against the Rangers, being on the road against the Devils, being on the road against the Islanders, you got to think, Carm, this takes a toll on teams. For a team like the Montreal Canadiens, they're playing their last 4-game road trip of the season they're on right now. And we take a look at this Vancouver team. It's not, this is a long road trip. And this is just, obviously the Devils, the Rangers, Devils, and Islanders, whenever you play that trio of teams, it's not that much travel, as we know, right? I mean, Devils, Rangers, Islanders, you're pretty much traveling around in a circle playing the same, these three teams. But having said all of that, I do think that Columbus is the play tonight. Now we ask ourselves about these team totals, and we take a look at some of the games that Columbus has had success in, and we go and take a look at when they win games, do they need to score 4 goals? Is that something that they usually do? But the answer is it's been very inconsistent. So I want to just go with the win, the minus 120 win here. The fact is that Vancouver, Carm, I feel like everything they do right now looks difficult. Everything they do, it looks like it's a challenge. Nothing they do right now looks smooth. Even when they get a win, it seems like it was tough to do. And I think the perfect case in point is, the Islanders getting the lead at first over the Canucks in that last game. The Canucks ended up battling back in that second period, and they end up getting the job done. And if we remember, Vancouver actually took overnight money in that New York Islanders game, and they ended up coming out on top. But it's just been a battle for them. They battled against the Devils. They ended up coming back from behind and winning over the Islanders. They had a 1-goal game against the Blues. It just seems like it's been an absolute battle. So I think the Blue Jackets are the side here. And, Carm, one thing that's kind of funny is that inherently we can't really say, oh, well, this team's hungrier. But I'll tell you, that's been a handicapping tool for me over the past few weeks. It's not like these teams all don't want to win. We know they all want to win. But to your point, well, it's been a pretty good road trip. We've been feeling pretty good. We just, won a few games versus the Blue Jackets. It has not been going well for them lately. And remember when they were in the playoff spot, the wild card spot for it, what it felt like? I felt like at least a couple weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks, whatever it might have been. And the Montreal Canadiens hold that spot now, but the Habs have now lost like 3 or 4 games. So the Blue Jackets are saying to themselves, "Oh my goodness, we could make our way back. We could come alive again." New York Rangers aren't winning. The Red Wings keep losing. The Islanders lost. Like, we might as well welcome ourselves back into this race. So, as we always talk about, must win doesn't mean will win, but this seems like a really hungry spot for the Blue Jackets.
Yeah, we're talking about this Eastern race, Andrew. It reminds me of like that the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio where he's on the ground outside of the building and he's crawling, or no, he's like crawling to his car. He's just trying to get to his car. These teams are crawling to the playoffs. Like you look at the teams, for those seventh, eighth that are currently seventh, eighth, ninth, and 10th in the Eastern Conference standings, and you look at their last 5 games for each team, and there's no more than one win in there for each of them. You look at like, the last 7 or 8 games, and it just seems like the season grind has gotten to some of these teams, or maybe some are feeling the pressure. Some might be scheduling, but nobody is standing out right now. Unlike in the Western Conference, where you have like a team like the St. Louis Blues, who have won 8 straight games, fall behind a couple goals or fall behind Nashville, come back and win the game. Those teams are playing some pretty good hockey, but to that point, we'll see. Vancouver has gotten themselves back into the playoff race. They're 5 points back of a playoff spot, and 2 games in hand on the St. Louis Blues. So they could easily be watching the scoreboard this weekend as well too, because Colorado has a home game against the St. Louis Blues. So I'm sure there'll be Avalanche fans at least for one night, hoping that the Blues lose. But we'll see what Vancouver does. When you talked about like team totals, Andrew, Columbus, the third best record for team totals at home at 21-13, plus I believe plus 6 units or plus 7 units, plus 5.12 units behind only Tampa Bay, who are 21-15, and the Buffalo Sabres, who at home have the league's best team total record at 22-13. So the team total for Columbus is 3.5 plus 140. The 2.5 is juiced at 165. That's basically one of those ones you deal with team totals. That's one of the ones where you look at and you're like, neither price looks right to me. I'm just going to
Yeah.
pass on it because they very well could land on 3 goals tonight. But do you want to lay that much vig with Columbus on a over 2.5?
That's the thing. I don't really want to lay that much vig, and the 3.5 is way too high. Sorry, the 3.5 is like way too good to be true, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
I have this threshold where I look at it's like the most minus I usually go to is like minus 115, 120, and the plus I usually go to is plus 125. For some reason, Carm, I, I always notice this. I can't explain this, but it's just what I've noticed and how I've worked this season with the team totals. Anything over like plus 125, that team is probably going to win 3-2 or 3-1 or something like that. If the books are telling you like plus 115, plus 120 is kind of my threshold. If your 3.5 over is like plus 140, it's the books are saying that team's probably going to land on 3. And so I don't want to question it. I don't want to go over 3.5. And to your point, I mean, maybe a same gamer, maybe somebody wants to make a same game parlay can throw 2.5 to the over, because you said they're the number 1 team in the league with that. So
Number
that's
3
number
at
3.
home.
Yeah. So that's at home. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. So and I'll tell you, speaking of which, there's one prop that stood out to me in this one. I got priced out on some of the ones I wanted to mention today on this one, but Kirill Marchenko over 2.5 shots on goal. This number is plus 105 is the updated number for him. And This is one of those matchup-based ones here, Carm. He has gone over in 3 of his last 4 games played against Vancouver. Plus 110 is actually the number. 3 of his last 4 games played against Vancouver. Shot attempts for him, 8, 6, and 4. And again, we're getting that 2.5 number. So I like it. And you got to love the fact you're getting plus 110. Marchenko plays on the right side of Sean Monahan and Dmitry Voronkov. And I don't know if you ever saw that they call there because Monahan's back from injury now, and he's obviously a great leader on the team, but he plays in the middle between the 2 Russians. So they started calling him Sean Monahov because they gave him the Russian last name because he's playing with the 2 Russian players. So he's supposed to be the veteran on the team, and yet he's on the bench with these guys, and he doesn't even know what they're saying out there. But Marchenko over 2.5 shots on goal. That's a play that I would have mentioned in the prop segment. So I like that one.
All right. Before we get to the next one, Andrew, a quick pop quiz for you.
Oh no.
The team with the best the team with the best overall home and away team total record at 45 and 25 is which team?
East or West?
Eastern Conference. You probably have pictures of them on your walls.
The Canadians.
The Montreal Canadiens,
Because of the
45
2.5. Because of the
and
2.5.
25. They have, because I think a lot of their totals are 2.5, but 45 and 25 on the season, plus 15.8 units, which is a profit of 18. The ROI is 18.04. It's a great ROI on a season, taking just flat betting Montreal team total overs. The next closest team, 7.6 units lower than the Montreal Canadiens at 8.2 units, is the Washington Capitals at 42 and 30. So the Montreal Canadiens team totals, maybe for the next 12 games, Montreal has 12 games left. Maybe for the next 12 games, I'll just flat bet Montreal over 2.5s and keep rolling it and see. They'll probably go 10 games where they score 2 goals or less, just to mush me. But
well, yesterday's game is a good example against Philadelphia, man. No matter who they lost the game, but they still scored the goals, as you and I were talking about that before the show.
Yeah, they got 4. So a team that didn't score yesterday, the Utah Hockey Club, Florida Panthers minus 245. I get the price. Utah Hockey Club plus 195. Utah's off 2 really bad performances. They lose at home to Detroit 5-1 at home before they hit the road or head to Florida. And it was a game in which Detroit just was the better team from start to finish. And Detroit's been so inconsistent that it's a surprise that they could dominate Utah, who were playing well at the time, the way they did. Utah shows up in Tampa and gets absolutely blown out 8-0 yesterday. Now they're in the second of a back-to-back against Florida. I'm just gonna take. They're 10 points back now. I think, to a man, I think they know. You never want to admit it as a player. If you have a chance, it's kind of like the Dumb and Dumber. So you're saying there's a chance. No, you're 10 points out. You're done. Give me Florida puck line here, because Florida is not going to toss in a. They're not going to play down to the level of a team. They just play their game. And during that heated battle with the Leafs in Tampa Bay for the number 1 seed in the Atlantic, I'm going to take Florida in these spots. I'm not going to take them at minus 245. I think the puck line is a good play here. I'm going to take the minus 1.5 here.
You know what, Carm? I don't blame you one bit. I always think around this time of year when Teddy Covers used to say, when a team is dead, they are dead. And there's no problem going against them again and again and again and again. And it seems like we can probably take this team to the graveyard because, as you mentioned, they are probably out. But I'm going to go back to the old reliable. I'm going to go back to the old-fashioned first period system bet. And, man, is it ever alive today? Did they ever get smoked last night? Like, they got slapped around. if there's ever a chance to play the first period over after a team got destroyed the night before, Carm, I think this might be the night. And I hope for your sake that it's just 2-0 Florida after one. But one thing I love about these first period plays after a team gets smoked is a lot of times the odds aren't even that bad because the team isn't scoring right now. So I'm getting minus 125, Florida, Utah, first period over 1.5 goals. That's my move in this game here. I think the Panthers trying to get some momentum, as you were just talking about, and we mentioned about the race in the Atlantic Division. This is a team that knows how important every single game is. And, they probably aren't happy about their last couple of games. Really, if you look at it, Islanders game didn't go very well. Blue Jackets game, they, scrape by. Capitals won, they lose. They win in a shootout against Pittsburgh. This game, I think they're going to show up. So totals 5.5. Forget about the full game. First period over 1.5, minus 125. And I think it should be a telltale sign for us that the first period over is minus 125, 130, but the full game over is 5.5 at a decent number. I think we see goals early on. And I think that, Carmen, when a team gets embarrassed like that, they want to bounce back immediately. But sometimes, and I hope it helps you, it can hurt their defense. If the offense is too excited, they're going to make turnovers, and it's going to hurt them defensively. So I like this first period. The second I saw it, the Utah getting beat so bad last night, I was just saying to myself, I hope the shutout stays. I hope the shutout stays. And then, of course, they didn't get one goal on the board. So I knew right away I would be all over that first period over.
Yeah, it's I talk about, Andrew, when there's a score line that makes absolutely no sense, draw a line through it and then just continue on with your handicapping. Don't let one game influence your viewpoint. The problem here is it's not just one game. It is now two games, and they're back-to-back games, one at home in what was likely at the time a must win, and must win doesn't mean you're going to win. But then they go into Tampa and they throw an absolute clunker in. But you look at, and I talk about XG numbers all the time, but you look at the numbers for this game and you look at the final score line and you're still trying to figure out how Tampa Bay scored 8 goals in this game. The shots on goal in this game were 25 to 21 for Utah. The XG in this game was 2.47 for Tampa. They scored 8 goals. Utah's XG was 1.89. If you look solely at this, if you went to Natural Stat Trick, where I'm getting these numbers from, and you look solely at the post-game analytics, you would have said to yourself, okay, well, this is probably one of those games that Tampa won 3-1, 4-2. It was a close game, not 8-0. So then you think special teams. There was only one power play goal. 7 of the goals that Tampa Bay scored were 5-on-5. So on 21 shots. So 8 goals on 21 shots. It was a bad night for Vejmelka, but it's now back-to-back ones. And he does he start tonight? I don't even know if Vejmelka starts tonight. Maybe they want to put him in there, off that performance. But
And he signed that
I just can't
contract
make a
too,
case
Carm.
for Utah, even with the analytics. Can you?
Yes. He's fresh off a new contract too. He signed a contract 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, he has been good. He has been good in them trying to get into the back into the playoff race. I have to think he likely starts the game tonight, only because they yanked him halfway through the second period. I think at the 9-minute mark, 10-minute mark is when they yanked him, and they put in I think it's Stauber, who was Jackson Stauber, who was called up. So the fact that they switched goalies tells me that Vejmelka should be in goal tonight for them. Maybe they play better in front of him, but back-to-back losses, allowing 13 goals in the process, is not a good one for this
No.
Utah team. I think they're done and dusted. We'll see if they show a little life tonight, but I'm taking the puck line and taking a little bit of plus money because it's 1.5 plus 110. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. I like it. I just think that, like you said, that this team is dead. And you talk about the analytics, Carm. It's not like they even deserved a better fate. They didn't. It's not like, sorry, the game should have been that much of a blowout, but it was just because their execution wasn't there, their defense wasn't there, and they're just getting outplayed. So, hey, if I can win my first period over, I don't care how I win it. That will be a client play for those of you watching here on WagerTalk TV. And yeah, I think it's a good bet. Carm, these puck lines, I think, are going to come more alive when we have playoff teams against non-playoff teams. Playoff team versus playoff team, we might see the puck lines kind of struggling a bit, but the value is going to be there with these puck lines late in the season for the teams that are just dead. Utah is going to go back into the territory of this season's over. We lost all hope. The future is bright for them. I like what they've done. They've got the good young core: Clayton Keller, Dylan Gunther, Shane Doan's son. Some of these guys are good, but it's not their time right now. So I like that one. I'm with you, and hopefully we can cash, man. I like it. No props for me in this game. I'm off the props for this game.
Okay. It takes a really good team, Andrew, I think, to have like a terrible start to a season and be able to get out of that hole, kind of like what the Edmonton Oilers did last year. We talked also, the first half of the season about Utah and the first couple of months about their inability to win on home ice. I think they win a stretch of like 12 or 13 games where they did not win on home ice. They were being competitive. They weren't. You need to be able to win on home ice if you want to make the playoffs. You have to win your games on home ice and then just pick up points on the road. They couldn't do that. They were behind the eight ball early on and just could never get out of it. I can't explain the 8-0 game last night. It's similar to the message I sent to you. We're discussing last night's game, and I talked about Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, for anyone who was watching that game, and I had the over in that game, and I'm glad the Sabres um, did much of the scoring. The game finishes like 7-3. The Sabres score 7 goals on only 2.65 expected goals. Another one. And my message to you was Pittsburgh is just standing around. They looked like they needed a B12 shot, or they were suffering a hangover from the night before, maybe too many Buffalo wings and some Miller Lights or whatever they were doing in Buffalo the night before. But they didn't show up to play. And that's the thing where we're going to be tasked with, Andrew, you and I, when we're doing this show for the next 2 weeks as the season runs out, or 3 weeks, um, of trying to find those teams that just aren't going to show up,
Yeah.
who've sort of checked out already, that don't want to block the shots in front of the net, are just getting out there, putting their 30 seconds in and then getting off the ice. And that allows teams like the Sabres, Yakes, to score 7 goals, Tampa to score 8. I just don't get it.
I know
But
that people
uh,
we shouldn't just handicap based on the numbers, but Carm, I've been as you noticed probably on the shows, I've been trying to look at that stuff a lot more lately. And one thing I texted you yesterday was saying I should have taken the Sabres because how often is this team a favorite? It's kind of like, like you got the better of me a couple of days ago with the Anaheim versus Boston matchup, right? And I had a big play on the Bruins, but how often are the Anaheim Ducks a favorite? Not that often. And you look last night, Pittsburgh off some good wins, and Buffalo's the favorite. Like that should have been all the thing, all the reasoning we needed was seeing Buffalo minus 135. I didn't think Buffalo would be minus 135 if Prez was in net, let alone against an NHL team. So the fact that they're minus 135 should have told us something, because I didn't think they deserved that over Pittsburgh, and then they just absolutely lay an egg. Crazy.
yeah, I'm gonna have to come up with a segment every single day for the rest of the regular season, just called like the lifeboat alert play or whatever, where this team's on like a lifeboat just drifting out there waiting to be saved. Because if anything, I'm going to look for the games where there's, a team that I think is probably checked out is on the road. Because you look at it, and Utah was on the road. You look at Pittsburgh; they're on the road. No one wants to be booed by their fan base at home on home ice for
Yeah.
putting in a miserable performance. So it's more than likely if you're going to be on the wrong end of a tilted score line, it's going to happen on the road. So we'll see how that works out over the next couple of weeks. And do you have any props for us?
For this game?
Like a props playlist, or you just
Yeah.
want to give them out as the games go on?
I was gonna get them out as the game goes on, but you know what, Carm? I'll get ahead of things. I'll get us set for the next game if that's all right, because I have a couple in the
Yeah,
next game. Is that cool with you?
fire it up.
All right. So this is kind of interesting. So looking at this game, first of all, why does Winnipeg play every Friday? I'm not really sure why this team gets to play every single Friday, but they do. But we've got this Devils team that's just been kind of inconsistent lately, but they got called out by their coach after the loss against Vancouver. I ended up having a team total play and a free play the next day, next game for them against the Blackhawks. And suddenly some of these guys are coming a lot to life with their shots on goal props. So we're going to take a look at Timo Meier over 2.5 shots on goal. 7 of his last 8 away games, Carm. Sometimes you look at guys at home, on the road, against this team, against that team in certain scenarios. Timo Meier over 2.5 shots on goal on the road has been a really good bet to make. Erik Haula. And I know this might sound like, why am I betting on Erik Haula? When you take a look at this guy, right now he's playing second line left wing. Without Jack Hughes, some people had to step up. And I think the books, as far as prop markets, aren't really taking into account some of these secondary guys as far as their props are concerned, because somebody else has to take some of these shots. And his number is plus 100, Carm, over 1.5 shots on goal, 4 of his last 5 games and 4 of his last 5 meetings overall against the Winnipeg Jets. So I like those two quite a bit. And there weren't that many I found that were good prices for the Winnipeg Jets besides one, and that was Cole Perfetti. But this guy is so inconsistent. This guy is bothered me so much because he's gone over this number, or he's gotten a point in 3 of his last 4 games. He's played well against Washington, Buffalo, Edmonton, and Vancouver. And then watch me just jump on board, and he has like the worst game of his life tonight. That's how it feels sometimes with these players that are not really the main guy, but they're kind of like that secondary option. But Cole Perfetti plus 115. It's always nice when you can get plus money on a player prop. But Erik Haula, Carm, that's one. If I were to say one NHL player prop of the day, I would say Erik Haula over 1.5 shots on goal.
Right. I'm liking it. We talk about and I know the people in our live chat will at times talk about, hey, when you mention a really good streak, don't mention it because that's when it
Yeah.
comes to an end, because they're on the same streak and they don't want others to know about it. I don't actually believe in that. I don't think you can mush a play. Um, but I still don't let Buster know what my 5% plays are because just in case. Buster, if you're watching this show, we love you, brother. Andrew, I'm looking at this now, and I get it. The Devils, they picked up some points, which is good. I don't think there's any fear of them being dragged into the playoff race, especially with the teams that are below them. So now it just becomes, where are you going to finish within the division? And I think that's pretty much answered that they're going to finish at least, or at worst, or at best, sorry, at best third, because Washington is going to win that division. The Hurricanes are going to have the number 2 seed, which means that New Jersey is likely in that third spot. This is one of the ones where I want to take the Jets at home. They're playing well. I get it's a big price, but the fact remains, um, there are there are no easy spots for this New Jersey team where they can take a night off anymore. Maybe
Yeah.
right at the end of the season, where 2 of their last 3 games are against, I believe, the Chicago Blackhawks and the Anaheim Ducks, or San Jose and Anaheim. But the Dallas Stars are 4 points behind the Winnipeg Jets right now. They both have 10 games remaining. They both have a game, or they have one game against each other. which is going to be a huge game if it's decided in regulation as opposed to sharing points. They can't take a night off. They want that number one seed. They've held that number one seed all season long. They can't take a night off, and they're not going to underestimate the Devils. I like them in this spot. I just have to find a way to play the Jets, whether I split a couple of units between the Jets and the puck line, the money line and puck line, or I just take them in regulation. Or as you said, if you're building a small little parlay, you might want to toss in the Jets, maybe a Jets Florida parlay, which will get you even money or just a little over even money. Might be the way to go because those are two teams that I think get the W today.
Well, Carm, remember what I said. This is my threshold. The plus 125 on the team total is the highest I'll go. Anything higher than that, I don't like it. This number could be worthy of a bet for the Jets because, like you mentioned, they're feeling the pressure. They're feeling that Dallas and other teams breathing down their neck. This could be a spot where they show up, and I wouldn't be shocked to see some Friday night goals in this one. Wouldn't be shocked to see a Friday night goal fest here. I know we can get some good goaltending from New Jersey every now and then. That's for sure. We already know we can get good goaltending from the Jets. There's no denying that. But looking at this one, I would not be shocked to look at goals. Looking at the expected goals really quick, again, just an updated number for people going into the weekend in the month of March, 5-on-5 expected goals, top 5 teams, Edmonton, Detroit, LA, Carolina, Anaheim. The worst teams expected goals against right now, Dallas, Pittsburgh, Anaheim, Buffalo, Chicago, and of course, New York Rangers right behind them. But I want to mention Winnipeg is the 3rd best team in March as far as expected goals against. So as much as I'm predicting goals here, maybe that could keep me off of it. Can you see a flat spot from the Devils where maybe instead of taking Winnipeg team total over, we go team total under on the Devils? Because looking at that and those numbers, that kind of makes me a little bit more intrigued, and it could potentially help us get off that. And as you know, Carm, that's kind of been something I've done lately. But I guess that's minus 130. So is it worth it going from the minus 130 for the team total under? I think that when Winnipeg wins, though, when they're at their true identity, they are an under team.
Yeah, well, as far as the Devils go, if you look at the Devils, what are their last 8 games on the road? I believe, yeah, last 8 games on the road, they've only scored more than 3 goals once, and that was last time out against the Chicago Blackhawks in a game they won 5-3. Prior to that, 2 goals, 3 goals, 3 goals, 3 goals, no goals. They were shut out. 3 against in Utah, 1 in Colorado. So, um, and obviously the whole Jack Hughes thing as well too. So the 3.5 line, what would that be sitting at right now? I'm just having a quick look. By the way, that parlay, Florida and Florida and Winnipeg in a 2-team money line parlay pays 118 plus 118. So that's not too bad. Yeah, it's unplayable for me, Andrew. The New Jersey team total under 3.5, which those numbers I read apply to, is like minus 340. The under two and
Yeah.
a half is minus 135. Maybe that's the way to go. Maybe under 2.5.
Yeah, if you can, I mean, if you look at it on the bright side, you go from a minus. Yeah, it's still a better price than the Winnipeg money line is. So that's for
Yeah.
sure. All right, Carm, I got a show coming up here soon. Let's get the
Yeah.
6 and 60 going here. I know you got some picks for us for Saturday, and I always love it because you give me a sneak preview. Usually Friday afternoon is when I start doing my prep for Saturday's NHL slate. So let me know what you've got here. I'm channeling my inner Dan, and I'm going to try and pop these games on the screen as you go.
All right. Well, I'll tell you the 6 and 60, 5-1 2 weeks ago. Last week didn't have a 6 and 60 because we had no show, but I'm predicting at least 4-2 with the 6
There
and
we go.
60. I hope I don't mush myself. I want a perfect 6-0. And with that said, away we go. First game, Buffalo and Philly. Flyers looked like a different team yesterday after the firing of Tortorella. 2 teams that will score goals in a meaningless game. Give me the over in the Buffalo Philly game. Colorado and St. Louis. The Blues are playing well, 8 straight wins, but the Avs, 11 straight dubs on home ice. Give me the Avs money line here. Devils and Wild. This is a bad scheduling spot for the Devils. This is their second of a back-to-back. They're playing Winnipeg on Friday night, and they're third in 4 nights. Give me the Wild money line. Columbus and Ottawa. The Sens are 10-4-1 their last 15 at home and off a confidence-boosting win. Columbus is on a back-to-back. Give me Ottawa in this one on the money line. Rangers and Sharks. Rangers are in the second of a back-to-back. They play in Anaheim on Friday night. This is a game in which they need the points in this playoff race. Rangers in regulation. The Sharks will not surprise them. And then finally, Toronto and the LA Kings. The Leafs played down to their opponents. They did it again on Thursday night, but they play up to the good teams, and the Kings are a good team. The Leafs are going to probably be a little bit of plus money here. I'm going to take them to upset the LA Kings. It's not really an upset, but I'm going to take Toronto on the money line, and that is your 6 and 60.
Great stuff, Carm. Great picks. I like those a lot. I respect the ability to be able to give out some quick info in such a short period of time, make rattling off some opinions, but keeping this within a quick segment. Couldn't be more true about Toronto. I hope you go 5-1 because I hope the Rangers lose. So I'm cheering against the Rangers because of that wild card spot. So, but couldn't be more true about that Toronto team. And like you said, with Philadelphia, my Habs experienced the coach's bump with Philadelphia putting up a 6 spot on Thursday night. Makes me think of Dave Koken every time because he's probably up there in heaven right now betting on the Philadelphia Flyers after they took down they got rid of Tortorella. So you know how it is. These teams get a spark from their coach getting fired, and it brings them to life. I will just say my best bet for the show is going to be the first period over in that Utah-Florida game. You could probably tell how much I liked it with my enthusiasm. We saw how much Utah got worked last night. They're going to show some pride and show up, but I don't know if it's going to help them very much. I think Florida's locked and loaded, ready to go, whether it's 1-1 or 2-0 or 2-1, whatever it might be after the first period. I like the over in that one. You guys heard a lot of my opinions on tonight's slate, but it might be a rare 3-pack for me of games in the NHL. We're going to have one college basketball play, and you can find, of course, MLB all day, every day, pretty much. Right now, we have a great, great special to get all of our MLB plays for the full week. I believe, what is it, $49, Carm? For MLB, $49 for 7 days of MLB plays. So let's rock and roll, guys. We hit the free play yesterday in the MLB. We hit the NHL free play. Let's keep it going. Back over to you, Carm, to close it out for us.
Yeah, guys, a couple plays up in the NHL tonight. This is going to be a really busy weekend sports-wise for me. I've been going through the card all week, whether it's hockey, whether it's domestic league soccer, in Europe and here in North America, and of course MLB as well too. So pick up that 3-day all access because I've got a big play coming out. So instead of paying $35 for it, 3 days will get you every single play on my card for the next 3 days. Andrew, my best bet, I'm going to go back to the Florida game, and I'm going to take the team total on this one. I just didn't like what I saw from Utah yesterday. And while they're not as bad as an 8-0 showing, Florida's going to get the better of them tonight. Over 3.5, minus 115 is the team total for Florida, and that's where I am going to settle in on.
I like it. Let's both hit our best bets in that game alone. Okay, guys, thanks for watching. Next week, we're back on the regular time, regular live, 11 a.m. Eastern on WagerTalk TV. Wishing you guys all a winning weekend. Make sure you find Carmine's plays and my plays over at wagertalk.com. All the best. See you next time, guys, here on PuckTime.